Okay, so the first part of making our bow tie or bow in the front of this bathing suit is to create a loop that goes all the way around the front to mimic an actual tie tying around the front piece. So I have these three pieces that I created. The long piece is going to go in the back, and the two small pieces are are being sewn in the front. So the first thing that we need to do is go into arrange, and we need to arrange these on our body. So to do that, I'm just going to click and drag to select all three of these pieces, and then I'm going to click on the outline of one, and I'm going to drag it over to my torso, wait until the square blinks 3 times, and then I'm going to release my mouse and let it drop in here. So next I'm going to make sure that my layering is correct. I want this long piece to be on the lowest layer possible and the two short pieces to be on the highest layer possible. So my long piece is set at layer 0, my two short pieces are set to layer 7. Okay, so next I need to push these back on our 3D window. We can see that we need to push them back and put them in the correct place. So I'm going to just use my arrow, my gizmo tool to adjust where they are. I want them to be directly in front of each other, so back in my arrange window, I am going to click and drag my pieces so that they're all stacked on top of each other, so that in my 3D, they will also be stacked on top of each other. Alright, nothing is colliding. This is looking pretty good to me. Actually, I'll move it forward just a little bit. Okay, so my next step is going to be to stitch the pieces. So what I want to do is I want to first stitch the back piece, top and bottom, to the front pieces, top and bottom. So I'm going into my stitch tool. Single stitch is fine. And we're gonna reference our 3D window as well as our 2D window to make sure that we're stitching the right pieces together. So I'm looking at where it's highlighted and my bottom front piece that I'm clicking on right now, and I want to stitch that to the bottom of this piece, and it looks like my stitches are crossed. So I'm just going to flip them so that they're not crossed. Okay, yep. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same with my front, the top to the top. I'm going to flip them again because they're crossed again. And then I want to stitch my two front pieces together so that they stitch right there in the center. Okay, so the next thing I want to do in terms of stitching after that's done is I want to stitch the center of my back piece to the center of my bodice to make sure that it stays put. So I'm just going to click on this center internal line, and then I'm going to go to the lining piece, the center of my lining piece. And again, I'm going to reference my 3D to make sure that I'm clicking on the right piece. And it looks like, again, my stitches need to be flipped. All right, we can see in our 3D now that the stitches, it's kind of difficult to see, but they're blue lines. Okay, so our stitching is done. Now we're going to add the pieces separately to make sure that they drape nicely. So I'm actually going to take my two front pieces out of 3D first. So I'm using my marquee tool, just my clicking and dragging on my mouse to select both of them, and then I'm going to click using 3D so that they disappear. And since I have auto lock on, all of my other pieces are locked, and if they're not locked, what you can do is you can click on your back piece, unclick using 3D, and then click it back again, and auto lock will make sure everything else on your garment is locked. Okay, so now we can dress since we have that stitched. Okay, and we can use styling tools to make sure that this piece is flat. Okay, and we can use our pinch tool as well. Sorry about my cat in the background. It's very popular. Okay, so I'm not going to make sure that this is perfect as of right now, but you get the gist. Use your styling tools to make sure that it lays flat, and then click Finish. And then our next step is going to be to add these two front pieces. So get out of your styling tool, go back into Select, and then I'm going to select the two pieces, the two front pieces. I'm going to click Use in 3D. Everything will lock again, including that back piece. And then we can press Dress. And it looks like it's having some difficulties, so what we can do is unlock that back piece so that it doesn't struggle as much. So I went into Styling, and then I clicked the down arrow on Advanced. And it's on this layer 0. So I'm just going to click the little lock button to unlock it. And then I can press Dress and let it continue to dress. Use my styling tools to make sure that it lays flat. And then the last step, right now, it's not doing well right now, but I'm not going to spend any time on that. The last step that I included in my in PowerPoint is we need to add these two lines right here at the bottom of our top front piece for later stitching. So they're just internal lines. You can just use your pen.